Not yet. Indicate to you. Indicate to you now. No. Let's do this. Is that okay? Yep. Come on, man, come on. Can you do this to me? Come on. Just start it now. So that's basically your backup mic, huh? When the power goes off at sea, it's a backup mic.
And what do I do? I continue.
You're gonna do that mic is powered to a small one, right?
So that's the backup one.
Yes. Oh. The jingle is playing now, right? You can mention also that we were starting early because of load shedding.
No, I'm getting thrown off.
Okay, there we go.
Good evening and welcome listeners of Inspire Elsie's Radio. My name is Chantal Maram on your favorite show, Let's Talk Community. So every Tuesday evening between 6 and 7, you can meet me here on the couch in the studio with amazing people from the community that is trying to impact the community in a positive way, making a difference. And yeah, we cover all the conversations here. So if you want to join the conversation, if you want to give us some input, or if you feel there's anyone you want to put on the show or showcase on the show, you can contact us via the WhatsApp number. Remember, this is your community, your voice, and your story. So the number for WhatsApp is 068 102 4094. So yeah, tonight we have amazing people in the studio with me. Two wonderful, beautiful ladies. Their names are Renee Hendricks and Cindy Knowles. Before I introduce them to you guys, I just want to give you a little bit of background. Why I say they are wonderful people, beautiful on the inside and the outside. They are people who actually put their hearts and souls and trying to make the community a better place for all of us. They are also trying to break through the brokenness of some of the community members that some of the community members are facing in the community. So Renee Hendricks is the founder of CSC, a Sword for Community Safety Champions. She is also a very successful businesswoman. I must repeat that, a very successful businesswoman. And she's a business owner, and her company's name is Rens Consulting. Am I saying that correctly? Correct. And then she's also a founder of Community Safety Champions, and that's also where she's the head of people and skills. And with her in the studio is our very own Cindy Knowles. She's the director of CSC, short for Community Safety Champions. She's an entrepreneur. She has a master's degree in science. And she's also the director of Community Safety Champions, and she is also the lead scientist, also the head of Green Economy. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome ladies, and thank you for being here. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
Would you like to say something, a shout out to the listeners out there?
Yes.
Yeah.
It started in Elsie's actually, and now we're back in Elsie's. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be able to speak about what we are passionate about, and because we really love what we do, and the more people that can find out what it is that we do, the more the word can spread, the more people can get involved, the more NGOs can get involved, because all we want to do is just uplift the community.
That's beautiful. Cindy and Renee Hendricks and Cindy Knowles is here with us in the studio. They are the partner of Community Safety Champions, and it's an NPC. Am I correct? Okay. So we're going to get into the interview, but before we get into the interview, I just want to know, do you guys have any plans for the Spring Day coming up? Do you have any plans for Pride Day? I mean, South Africa is celebrating.
Starting with Spring Day on the 1st, we definitely have a big plan, and it involves color.
Oh, love it, love it. Anything else?
No, it's for the fun.
I'm just gonna wink
Of
wink
the
over
plans.
I'm just gonna wink over here. do invite Chantal around to your bride on Friday. Okay, so let's get into it. Rene, I'll start with you, and Cindy, you can join in. Just share with us a little bit of background about the foundation that you guys are partnering in. You are partnering, right? So just share with us a little bit of background. What is your CSC all about, and what is your involvement in the organization, and what is your role as the founder, and what is your role, Cindy, as the director?
I think I'll start off. So I almost want to say many years ago, but as now the other day in 2019, it seems like now the other day, and we didn't think that it would be now the other day, having been through COVID and that being such a big thing in our history. So my background is human resources. I've worked for 25 years probably as a business partner, practitioner in very big organizations, corporates, as a human resources practitioner, and then I went out on my own. I had the bug. In fact, I had the bug in 2010, and then I really had the bug in 2016, and I went out on my own and we formed a accredited training company. So Rens Consulting is an accredited training company, and we started training health and safety, workplace compliance, your SHE-REP, your
Yes.
first aid, your fire. And we then got a client that sponsored for their CSI initiatives. They wanted to sponsor health and safety for unemployed youth in communities.
Okay.
And because I was connected to Alces River, I was working in N1 City, and I thank Netcare N1 City for all of that. We started training the unemployed youth of Alces River, and so that's why when I said I'm back, it started here.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk in the road and I actually see, hi, oh yeah, you were in my, yeah.
I knew you.
So we literally trained first aid and fire, and we churned. It was so exciting, and we thought it was a banquet because there had to be the best food, there had to be a best. In fact, Chantal Moran was one of them, so she's testimony to the outcome of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we trained, and then of course yours truly COVID hit, and we had to sort of go down and come out in lockdown. But the most amazing thing about the training was that as lockdown opened up, there were the unemployed youth of Alces River, and they just wanted more and more. And then obviously, as we know, many funders pulled out. We didn't have any funding anymore, but our training partner, Hearts Guardians Emergency Training Services, I have to mention LNA, we just decided we are training, we're not stopping this.
Wow.
Funds, whatever, no funds, whatever. Thank you, Netcare, for your venue. It was when lockdown lifted, yes, we didn't break any laws, and we just continued training, no funding. ICANN Center also gave us some venues, and we just continued training. And then we just persevered because, you know, there were people to train, yes, and what else were we going to do? It was lockdown, like, get some excitement going. So we trained a lot of people. I think we trained over 100 people during those 2 years, lockdown permitting. And then we really started, because that was really a training project and it was a labor of love. And where it really started was, one day I live in Ops, and there was this fire on the mountain, and it was gruesome. It was scary, and I just had this feeling, this happens so many times in nature, in the mountain, and actually, quite frankly, it actually happens in our very neighborhoods. It happens in communities. And when I did the statistics and I did the research, the prevalence of fires in the Western Cape is so high. And it's so high that people actually have become, they've developed an apathy towards it. Oh, there's another fire.
Wow.
God give to the givers of it, there's another fire. And it almost felt like it became the accepted norm. And I went, but we are health and safety, and I just developed this thing about, now we're going to increase and broaden the scope of just first aid, and we are now really actively going to train people in communities so that, and we're going to give them fire extinguishers, and we're going to give them first aid kits so that when anything happens, because we know we have a problem in terms of the EMS services, and there's no blame on anybody. If there's not enough EMS vehicles, if things happen when they come into communities and they can't get into vulnerable areas because there's no road infrastructure and so on, but lives. So our main focus is there's a life-saving opportunity, and so we really broadened from that very day that it was a Sunday with the fire, and I call it the UCT fire. And that was a landmark turnaround where we really went into, we need community safety champions in communities, in vulnerable areas, in disadvantaged areas, and there are so many communities coming up all the time. It's not just Eitzig and Alsisriver and Delft. We see on our very doorsteps, we see in town communities, you know, we call it the springing up of communities. So I'm in OBS, and the first thing that people that came to live in OBS as our new residents asked was, can we have fire extinguishers? And it was such an eye-opener, because it is a real thing, it is a scary thing, and we cannot have apathy towards it. We must be awake to it, and that's how Community Safety Champions really started out. That was 2021. And then as an entrepreneur, I met Cindy, and Cindy is, she runs a Christian network business organization, and Cindy is passionate about developing businesses, and I'm like, no, there can't be anybody more passionate than me, like we have got to do something. And Cindy kept on talking about sustainability and food growing, and the concept really just grew, because if you think about it, it's an ecosystem. It's about life-saving devices, skills, and growing from the earth to save lives, because food and food sustainability and our current situation of food scarcity, I mean, we see it on the shelves every day. We just took the ecosystem and we took life-saving, which is your fire, your first aid, your biohazards, and food sustainability and the green economy, and we actually were able to say the vision is that there are 3 pillars, we're going to combine it, and they're all about life-saving.
Thank you so much, Renee. Cindy, before I'm going to ask you to join us on that answer that Renee just gave, I just want to mention something to the listeners that I just picked up about, Community Safety Champions. Community Safety Champions has amazing leadership through the 2 of you. What I just picked up is you were innovative, you were also providing. Can you hear me? So the 3 things that I picked up from Community Safety Champions is that they're innovative, they are leaders, and they are, how can I say, persistent. No? And they are also providing, there was a word I just had, but now I forgot it, but you are providing and making a difference and changing people's lives through what your organization is doing, and I'm loving that. So Cindy, stop me now and please do continue.
Yeah, like Renee said, we just clicked immediately, because we are both, like you say, passionate, completely passionate, and so we like feed off each other, you know, and so the ideas just come, and what is important is, why are we doing it?
Yeah.
You know, we are not doing it for ourselves, we are not doing it for fame, glory, or whatever the case may be, but it's because our passion is to help others, you know. I mean, life is just so doom and gloom all the time, and people are always like, there's no hope, it's just the apathy that Renee spoke about, and so our main concept is basically to instill hope through a skills development program that will empower them, you know, to be able to see that they have skills that they can use for themselves, and then uplift themselves and then the community at large. So it becomes a circular type of concept, you know.
You're speaking of circular concept. Can you please take us in that direction? What does it mean? Can you explain to the listeners of Inspire Elsa's Radio? I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun right now, but can you take us through that process?
Okay, so basically what we came up with was skills development is the main focus of what it is that we want to do, right? And then through the skills development, we then add on entrepreneurship. Because now you're learning a business skill. Because through the skills, you might have touched on, oh, I like the first aid part. So now when you're learning about business, you can now make yourself an entrepreneur in first aid respondership. And whatever the case may be, whether it's selling your fire extinguishers, or whether it's providing the service, or whatever the case may be. You know, whatever your niche is, through the skills development program that you identify, through the business section, you can now use that and become an entrepreneur. And also like food security. So depending on what your niche is, you then jump into that. Then you plow it back into the community, because now you are selling your service to the community. So you are sort of closing the loop, because you were unemployed, you gained the skill, you became an entrepreneur, and now you're selling back into the community.
So there's no need for poverty.
There's no need for poverty, because if each one reaches one, if every person on their corner does that, you know, you are creating a whole environment of entrepreneurs, and a local economy can then boom right there in your community.
And we're also changing the mindsets of
changing
people.
the mindsets.
From saying I can't to I
Yes,
can.
I can,
Yeah.
because we all can, if you just take the opportunity.
Thank you, Sandy. I just jumped the gun, but we can continue. As the founder and the director, Renee and Sandy, I would love for you guys just to explain to us what you hope for and what is your expectations or the outcome that you hope for your whole organization. What would you like the outcome to be?
Having been in the corporate business world and knowing that unemployment, I mean, we all know the statistics. Unemployment, your high school dropout rate, your ECD learners, not your literacy, reading literacy rate. We know where we are globally and statistically in the world in terms of all of that. We know that entrepreneurship and the NHI is supposed to be the plaster and but the actual advances in terms of improving those rates of entrepreneurship. So our background and what we do is skills development. It's a particular market that we develop skills in, and it's all about life sustainability, whether it's life saving or it's life growing in order to sustain life. So all of this is a circular economy. We call it 3 pillars: early warning, disaster risk management, health and safety, so that's your fire, your first aid and your biohazards, and in your green economy, which is you're growing your food, then taking that food, either selling it or making, I love the word agro-processing, where we're making our pestos and we're curating our condiments, and kimchi and all of those nice things. So what we want to achieve is there are just so many jobs that is available to be offered to young people. Our target market being unemployed youth, women, who are very often, we find, that come through our program, who are the survivors of gender-based violence, and there are many of those, and so I'll talk a little bit more about that. And also marginalized people with disabilities, because I've worked with people with disabilities for so many years now, and there's such a wealth of what they can offer, but many communities, because of stigma and because of stereotypes, don't tap into that market. So our target market is those 3: unemployed youth, women, people with disabilities, and the most important thing being that they must belong to non-profit organizations, because the mindset that we want over here is that it must be community orientated. You must give back. You must first sustain yourself, and then that knowledge must go, I must give back into the community.
Wow.
So it's entrepreneurship and everything that comes out of there. And we've identified probably about 25 different business models. Some of them being one that we really recommend when we go through the whole program is safety events marshals. We've identified your home-based carers. Because once you have first aid, you have fire, you've got all of these medical skills. You've got, you know, you can go into a career path. So it can either be a medical health career path, or it can be a food growing career path. And at the bottom of all of that, the basis of it all is entrepreneurship, because there are just so many jobs that's being offered out there, with, especially to a high school dropout, because those are our realities. So we are providing skills, and our hope and our dream is that those skills will be turned into income generating opportunities, because we connect you to networks that can support you and mentor you to make money out of what the skills that you have. So there's no way that anybody who gets a skill is just going to be left, okay, so now I have the skill and I have the certificate, and now we're waiting for the next thing. And so a big part of it also is, we were talking about apathy and mental awareness. And what we find throughout all the years that certainly Cindy have been with communities and trained women in communities, and I have trained the youth in communities, I often find we have these amazing programs and then nobody turns up. And it really is not because nobody wants to turn up. It is really because people out there are really, in our communities, they are really depressed. And so that's a mental, it's not just an apathy, but it's a mental stumbling block that prevents them or hinders them from coming out and getting up and putting their foot outside of the door. So a big part of our program is wellness, and we want to impact, we want to disrupt, we want to take that mental, we want to be the game changers. So we're not just going to start you off with, today we're going to start with here's your workbook for first aid. We are first going to take and tackle the mental awareness, because if you can't unlock and you can't become passionate like we are, if you can't find that inner passion to do something that will take you outside, put your foot outside of the bed and I can do this today, it's not going to work. So you're not going to achieve that entrepreneurship and that successful business startup that we want to achieve if we can't unblock that stumbling block of, I'm apathetic because I'm actually depressed. And we must acknowledge that, and we want to attack that and disrupt it. And the how, and we've got programs and we've got methodologies. So we do work with subject matter experts. We don't just, Cindy and I just don't come up with like, are we going to unblock the mental, are we going to make him less, yes, are we going to make you excited today? We actually do work with social workers, we do work with experts, we do work with people that work in communities who know the communities, because you have to be able to stand in somebody's shoes to understand why they are like that in order to break that cycle of why it is like that and how we can undo it. So for us, what we want to achieve is entrepreneurship. Make your money, feed yourself, feed your neighbor, well, sell to your neighbor, unless you're going to trade and barter. If they're making spinach and you're making beetroot, you can barter. So there's a whole lot of concepts that surround all of this, but the most important thing is wellness, well-being, entrepreneurship, and we can break the cycle of poverty and change that narrative of crime and this only gangsterism. To the new kid on the block is the influencer who's going to save lives.
And then just to add on to that, we've also amazing people have come along our path. And one of them is the Leland Management Group. And so not everybody we've identified is an entrepreneur. Even though they might go through the whole skills development program, it's not for everybody. So Leland Management, they actually have Jobs Connect, which is a human resource type of program where they place people at the jobs that befits their character or profile or whatever the artisanal skills are, and so forth. So they are the avenues, there's hope.
So it's not basically just focused for short term, it's actually a long term solution.
Because entrepreneurship is a career, so you will choose your career path because it's still a career.
Interesting.
And then we basically would like to roll it out into the rest of the country. We are also directors with community risk management. So we provide this type of program through them as well, with the early warning system being the focal point of disaster risk management, and then the skills development around that. So they run concurrently. So that we're going to roll out nationally. But you know, that's a phased approach.
So you guys are not skipping, we already now by
No.
What's your plan?
No, we are just saying what is
Plans are underfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I love it. I love the answers. I just want to know one last question. Not the last question, but I just want to know the areas that you target, right? The red flag areas that you mentioned. Is it we are still live? So the areas that you target as for the poor areas, local communities, right? What can the people, what can they gain from your, how do I put this now? What can young people from the community, poor communities, what can they gain out of your program? You mentioned something about the 3 pillars, right? What is the 3 pillars and what can they gain? Is there certificates? Okay?
Alright.
Can you take us through that?
So, yeah, as with all good training programs, they'll get a certificate. But that is actually the last thing they must worry about, because the most exciting part is a skill that can turn into a career that can provide and put food on the table. So we've identified a few career paths. So let's talk about the pillars. The pillars are early warning disaster risk management. Okay. The pillars are 1, early warning disaster risk management. We call it orange. The second pillar is health and safety. It's really derivative of occupational health and safety because it started off in the workplace. But that is when we manage that first aid, fire, awareness about how to manage safety in communities, in your very own house. Something like COVID-19, it's a biohazard. So what happens when the next biohazard comes along? So that focus on health and safety, biohazards, fire, first aid. And then the third pillar is the green economy, sustainable, healthy living, which is about growing your own food and then turning that into an opportunity to both feed yourself, to barter, to sell, even to sell to your retailers, your ShopRite, your Checkers, the centre, the market down the street. So those are the 3 pillars, and they work together collectively. You then choose out of any one of them. Like Cindy said, if you feel that you are good at growing potatoes, you go into a career stream, into the agripreneurship, and that career stream. You can become a hybrid entrepreneur. You can combine your food growing with you can become a safety events marshal. So what that is, Cape Town is renowned for festivals and events and the next party at the next farm.
Happy people.
Happy. We can train the youth abilities for reimagined communities.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm loving that.
And so if people buy into that and they wake up and they say, I'm going to be part of this, you choose your career, because entrepreneurship is a career.
It doesn't mean that you had a bad start, you had a disadvantage and you're going to stay there. There's a possibility of you actually getting out of that.
Yes,
you have to be hungry.
you can choose the other game and not that game.
Yeah.
And just to amplify what Cindy has said, I mean, we said it already, it's not just entrepreneurs, it is, I still want to have a job.
Yeah.
So imagine how more marketable and employable you are.
Yeah.
You've got a health and safety, you've got a first aid certificate, you've got a firefighter certificate, you've got agro processing, you can become the person who sells the condiments at work, because the one thing that COVID has taught us is that we need a second hustle. And you should actually have 4 different hustles. Okay? You must just manage your time properly.
I just want to bring Cindy on board here. Cindy, green economy, that is where you are the head, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's all about sustainable living. Can you take us to, I know in the beginning I asked you just to describe a bit about sustainable living and green economy, but how do I put this question now? So your green economy is formed, no, wait, I just lost my question, listeners of Inspire Elsie's Radio. Can you believe it? Because I was not so interested in what Rena was saying, that I wanted to focus on you and bring you on board, because there's something I wanted you to clarify, but now I think it's Alzheimer's on my side.
You know what? It's okay. I'll talk through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So let me first talk about the disaster risk management, right? And then I'll speak about that section, and then I'll speak about the green economy, and then I'll speak about the circuit, the grid collapse, and all those
That
types
is what I wanted to ask. In the case of a grid collapse,
Yes.
how the role that your green economy plays at that moment, at that point in time. But you're going to cover it. I know you're going to cover it, so I'm going to leave you. I'm not even going to go ask the question. So.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, if we look at what's been happening because a lot of what we are doing is inspired by live events,
Yeah.
so to say. So it's like on the ground, this just happened. Okay, how can we capitalize on that? How can we help others circumvent or jump in when something like this happens again? You know, so it's like alive, it's fluid, it's growing all the time. So if we look at what's been happening in the past few months in South Africa and in the Western Cape, for example, we've had a serious flood. It's about a month. 2 months ago.
Flood, typhoon.
Yeah, flood, typhoon, tornadoes, whatever. Okay, so if we just focus on the flood that happened, what are the impacts around that? You know, it's amazing, like how it impacts people's lives so much and everything that's involved. So the reason why we're bringing in disaster risk management is because firstly, there isn't a proper warning system in South Africa. You know, if you go overseas, like I've been to Korea, and as soon as there's a typhoon coming, everybody's phones light up, go home, tie down everything, prepare, because you're going to be stuck in your house for like 2 to 3 days, because you know outside is going to be mayhem, and we don't have anything like that. And so DMS NPC, which is Disaster Risk Management of South Africa, they are focused around gathering information for this early warning system, okay? So, because they want to build that type of model where if something were to happen, people would be alerted and they would know. And then better care can be taken. You can actually preempt what's going to happen just by looking at the warning signs or whatever the case may be. So that is basic, and so the situations of what has occurred recently indicates and shows us exactly why we need that type of system to help prevent the disaster that will happen after the event. So if we look at the floods that happened, had they known prior to, you know, longer prior to, they could have prepared better, like the emergency services and so forth. They, instead of waiting for the floods to happen, they could have, you know, put preventative measures in place. So that should the flooding happen, this and that can happen, and so on and so forth. And they did a sterling job with what happened. Unfortunately, a few lives were lost, and the impact was that most of the farms were devastated, you know. So you think, okay, a lot of the food produce was lost. What is the implication of something like that? That means that it will impact on our food security. So what is the implication of that? That means that maybe by December, the food that was busy growing for them isn't there anymore. Yeah. So now what do? We're not going to have enough food. And how long does it take to grow food? It takes a while. It's not an overnight thing. So with the result, we might even have a looming famine, you know? So that leads to why our concept is so unique, because we are preempting the natural disasters that will occur. So if food security, we know, is an issue, so this can be looked at as a preventative measure, you know. So if we know there might be a famine based on things that happened, or because of this, yeah, that this flooding that just happened now, And if we had started the beginning of the year to teach people how to grow their own food, by now they would have had lots of produce to sell, you know. So it's about that type of mindset and why disasters fit into what it is that we do, because it's preemptive.
It's basically preparing you for what could happen.
Exactly.
Risk management.
Yes, it's risk management completely. And so then that also goes for everything. I mean, if we also look at what was the other event that happened, the strike, the taxi strike, a man-made disaster, basically.
Man-induced.
Yes, man-induced. And it was a disaster. And what actually happened was the people in Khayelitsha, because nobody could come in or go out, that is also your food trucks and so forth. So no food was coming into Khayelitsha and nobody could go out because of the strike. With the result, the food ran out of all the local shops, of all the big retailers in the area, and the people started starving. Panicking because there wasn't food. So had this program been going, you know, they could have preempted and survived something like that. Okay, thankfully it wasn't a big thing, but these are just indicators these are just indicators and proof of why the two need to meld and why we need to preemptively do this type of thing, especially for what is coming. And that leads up to the next thing that I'm going to speak about, which is the grid collapse. So we are stuck with Eskom and load shedding. And you know, they make jokes about load shedding is teaching you to be a master chef. All of that.
On a bribe.
But the reality is, you know, they're saying it's going to get worse, it's going to get worse. And we have become so complacent and so used to this lifestyle now that we're just like, okay. But do people actually really think about when it does happen, when we do get to stage 11, and if there's a stage 15 or whatever the case may be, that eventually will cause the entire grid to shut down. And I think it was in July, the one minister said that a grid shutdown is very possible and probably will happen.
At the rate we're going right now,
It probably will. So what does that mean? What does a national grid shutdown mean? That means there's absolutely no electricity for, let's say, 2 or 3 days. What impact does that have on our lives? Sewage can't be pumped, water can't be pumped, so you'll have no water in your taps, you'll have no water to flush the sewage, nothing to pump the sewage away. You don't have petrol because the petrol can't be pumped, so you can't go anywhere. Whatever's in the food stores, if you can get to one without your car, will probably all be sold out.
I just imagine the chaos.
The chaos will ensue.
Oh, wow.
So you are going to be stuck in your house basically with nothing. Do you know how to use what is at your disposal in your house to survive?
Once again, if they have known about it
Yes.
before and would have benefited them.
Exactly. So a big concept of what we are doing is to prepare people for what is coming.
What could come.
Or what could come, you know. So we also have a segment that is called Urban Survival, where we kind of touch on those pointers and teach people how to survive in the event of a grid collapse. So do you know how to cook food using your tuna tins and your old oil and stuff like that? So it's like being practical, using what you have around you and literally surviving. But the thing is, people need to understand they need to start now. You can't wait until something happens. You have to start now. And that is part of why I am so passionate about it, is because I just want to help people prepare for whatever is, I mean, nobody was prepared for COVID. And it hit everybody. You know, I mean, that lockdown was just awful. But now we are becoming aware of these things and what can happen. And so while we have time, you know, they are telling us There might be. And so now is the time to use these opportunities to learn the skills and prepare for what is
Basically going back to basics.
going back to basics.
It's almost like scouts also, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Do you involve the children also? Is the program specifically for them? Sorry, you can continue just after.
You know, the skills are not so much for to upskill the children, but more the youth. So you're 18 to, but there's no reason why children. We look at schools. In our areas, we've been asked many times, and in fact, we are working with some schools where there are gardens, food gardens. So the answer is not no exclusively. The answer is not yes exclusively, but definitely school children, school students or school year kids of that age can definitely get involved, and they are already involved, especially on the food gardening. In fact, there are so many schools that do have it already, so it's just where Cindy comes in with her science background. It's just taking what they do, amplifying it and taking it a step further. What can they do beyond just growing the spinach?
Because it's actually scary to think about it when we do reach that point where things would go wrong and we don't have a system in place. You know what I mean? Cindy, please continue.
It's a way of life. It becomes a way of life. So even if something doesn't go wrong, it will become a way of life, and you'll always have your sustainable food garden that's going to support you. Or you can go and sell it to.
So it's not just focused actually on what if the grid collapse thing happens. It's also you can benefit afterwards.
And so the benefits of diabetes and
So it is a holistic approach, and it's very fluid. So as we mentioned before, as things happen and evolve, our offering grows and evolves. But it's basically the core of everything is to help people prepare for whatever eventuality and be healthy. But yeah, our concept is because a lot of people are now seeing the importance of growing your own food. So lots of schools do have food garden programs. Quite a few NGOs have food garden programs, but it's only food garden programs. So like Rene said, we're taking it a step further and we're teaching you how to harness the curative properties of what you grow and starting a business from it, either in the agro processing, so you make your own pestos and your own sauerkraut and chlorophyll and whatever the case may be, or you can go down a medical sphere where you make your own balms and stuff, you know, using the herbs and things that you grow. So there's quite a few different avenues that you can go down to become sustainable in itself and empower yourself basically. And that is why we call it the circular green economy, because we are closing the loop.
It's not a one-stop shop.
It's not a one-stop shop. Yeah, it's very fluid, and so you are becoming an entrepreneur, but you are plowing it back into your community. So you sort of creating an economic hub right where you are. So imagine if Elsie's River and Ravensmead and all these other places could create their own economic hubs, so to say, making their own money and keeping it in there instead of, you know, doing what it is that we do. And they are empowering each other. Every street is doing that. Every person is selling something that somebody else needs. Bartering, selling. You know, everybody's helping each other out. Imagine how we grow as communities, and then as cities, and as a country. We could literally raise ourselves out of poverty. Also, there was another study done where they said that Rena spoke about mental health earlier, and what they said was, you know, with this begging on the street, that is such a terrible health condition, and the root of it actually is food insecurity, and a lot of children suffer from malnutrition, and everything links to food insecurity because they're not getting the proper food that they need, you know, and then that causes depression. that causes malnutrition. And the knockoff effect is terrible because it actually causes gangsterism at the end of the day. So it's about also teaching people the links of what the basic food insecurity can have and the knockoff effects thereof and the far-reaching effects thereof. And so that is why we would like to close the loop by alleviating all these different problems through the skills program that we are in.
All because of the fire.
Well, actually, because of you, Chantal, you just kept on showing up. I want more training. I want more. Oh my word, Chantal here again.
I'm totally in love with this whole program, what you're trying to do. I wish you guys all the best. It's really inspiring. I hope inspire us as radio listeners that you've listened, you've learned, and that you're going to apply, and you're going to shout for more, and that we are aiming to become a green economy. Am I saying it right?
Yes, yes.
Economy.
Economy. Okay.
So I just want to say all of this costs money.
Yes, Rene, before you do that, I would like to ask you or give you a 30 seconds free market moment where you can basically reach out to funders out there. So this is from Inspire Radio. Go for it.
So Cindy and I had this conversation, and because I'm an HR manager, I can't ask for money, but Cindy will.
Okay, so basically, what we are going to do is we are going to launch in the month of September. We are going to launch a women's program, and we will have a few sponsors or at least endorsers like Truworths and so forth. We want to empower women. We want to empower women, but we want to ask NGOs to please apply. And we will then give you the details at a later stage as this concept progresses. To please contact you, because we want them to then identify those women and sort of, the youth, the people with disabilities, those that have come through gender-based violence and so forth. And then we want them to nominate those women. You know, for this type of program, we're looking at about 30. If we can get more, it will be all the better. And then they will form the core basis of the actual new skills development program that we're going to then start. Because this will be like a small little concept program that we want to start in Alces River. So we are asking all NGOs in the area.
But it's not
funders.
No.
We announced it in September, and we're asking more funders.
So do you have listeners out there, anyone that can help the community safety champions, yeah. If you can reach out to them, we will post information on our platform, and if you
we'll
can
break
reach
the
out,
news to inspire.
Definitely, and we're looking forward to it. So, Rene, a last question for you, because you mentioned something during the interview. You said you would like to touch on gender-based violence. Do you still want to cover that?
No, well, I think we sort of covered it by saying that our programs, none of our programs, all of our programs include a wellness, what we call it, a coping mechanisms component. And every one of them starts off with your mental wellness. So we don't go out asking people, are you a survivor of gender? It actually just naturally just flows from the training that we do, and people feel safe and people feel comfortable, and we've really experienced this, and we realize there's no way that you can just go on and training and ignore all of this. So every one of our programs has got a component in it that will deal with it, and there's many, and obviously we will deal with it according to who is in our program. So some of them may need this kind of intervention or that kind of intervention. There may be a program where nobody has come forward and said, I'm a survivor of GBV, but we tailor-make our wellness programs around who we have and the issues that come out during the programs.
Thank you. Any last words from you, Cynthia? Anything that we didn't cover that you guys would like to mention before we conclude?
No, I think we just want to thank you and Inspire Radio so much for this opportunity, because we really want to get the word out there, because the more people we can reach, the better. So thank you very much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's actually a great honor to have you guys here. So thank you for accepting the invitation, and thank you for what you are doing for the community. Thank you for putting yourself out there, like putting your hearts and souls in this and trying to make this a success. I mean, you have your own personal lives, and yet you're still trying to make a difference, and I love you for that, and I hope all the best for you guys. And nothing is impossible. This is gonna take off and be a success. I can see it. I love it. And yeah, so listeners of Inspire, sorry, Renee, the contact details also, please.
Yeah. I also just wanted to say that Alces River is where it started, so that is why we are here. But there are more communities across the Western Cape and across the Cape Flats that we have identified. I'm not going to name them right now. You know, for reasons, but we will be in those communities, and we're working with other partners as well, and some, you know, who are also endorsed by some other organizations, big organizations. There's such a lot of detail that I cannot mention because, you know, for reasons of having signed an NDA, and things are still, the programs are still in, while those agreements are still being rolled out, but we are definitely taking this program and this whole circular economy concept to other communities in this very Western Cape.
Thank you so much, and once again, thank you for being here and for accepting the invitation, and thank you for what you guys are doing. So, listeners of Inspire Alces Radio, and before I go, I just want to say, please do keep us posted. You're anytime welcome, and I hope that Inspire Alces Radio will be invited to one of the events in the future. Thank you, Renee. So, listeners of Inspire Alces Radio, this is basically the end of the show, the time to say goodbye. It's not what I like to do. I enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed connecting with you, the listeners of Inspire Alces Radio, and with my guests in the studio. And I also would like to thank the technician for tonight. His name is Suleiman David. So thank you, Suleiman.
Thank you, Suleiman.
And to all the listeners out there, thank you for always connecting with us, for your support. Without you, this radio station, Inspire Alces radio station, won't be able to spread the news, spread the message that these organizations, the people from the community, has to share with the world out there. So please do stay connected, spread the word, download, connect with us, inspire, follow us on the platforms. And if you have any message you want to send us, if there's anyone that you want us to interview on the show, or if there's any topics you would like us to do research on and speak about, please let us know on the WhatsApp number. It's 086 102 4094. I repeat, 086 102 4094. Thank you, listeners of Inspire Alces Radio. Same time, same place next week. Stay healthy, safe, and lots of love. Bye.